Hey everyone, Divine Leviathan is upon us in DFFOO Global, and along with it came two highly anticipated units in the form of Zack and Ramza. Of course, these two units are worth their weight in gold, but the issue I guess is that they are also BT plus units, and with BT ingots being scarce as they are, lately the past few days I've seen lots of questions online on which unit should I chase for between Zack or Ramza, which unit should I invest my BT ingots on. And I thought I'd just make a short video covering my perspective on which unit I feel is more deserving of your gems tickets or your BT ingots. So in my opinion, between Zack or Ramza, the unit that's probably more deserving of your gems tickets or BT ingots is... It really depends. Now I know it's not really a straightforward answer, but I've seen arguments for both characters and both sides of the coin really does have merit. And in fact, some people actually did chase, pull and green both units, and there's also nothing wrong with that. There's really pros and cons depending on a variety of factors. And in this game, there's really no such thing as a must-have character, so to speak, because every endgame stage can be completed with a variety of different units. So you can't really get locked out of content unless, maybe if you're very new to the game and you don't have any characters built. So generally, my recommendation is always to do your own research as well, so that you'll be able to make an informed decision whether or not the character really suits your roster and playstyle. And I think that also applies in this case as well. So whether or not you should pull for both and green both, or pull or green either Zack or Ramza, really depends on a few different factors, such as the roster that you have, what units you have built up, your playstyle and your preferences in how you approach stages, the resources you have in gems, tickets and BT ingots, and of course whether any one of these two characters are your favorite character. So in this video, rather than telling you whether you should pull for one or both of the characters, or rather than going in depth about what they bring to the table, I'll be sort of giving just a quick overview and talking about how Zack and Ramza sort of fits some of these factors that you really should think about when you decide to pull or build certain units. I'll start off by giving just a very brief description about both Zack and Ramza as units, which I hope will be helpful for those who are fairly new to the game and haven't used these characters before. And I'll start off with Zack. Zack functions sort of like a lock tank. He can inflict the lock debuff, which forces all enemies to target him when they are dealing single target attacks. His BT Plus gives him access to the ability to redirect AoE damage, similar to how Bash works. If you have pulled for Bash and you've used him before, anytime an enemy uses an AoE HP attack, as long as Zack's BT aura is up, all that HP damage will be redirected to him. Along with that, his BT aura also gives him immortality, similar to how Ardyn works. While his BT aura is up, any attack that reduces his HP to 0 will not actually kill him. He'll still be able to function at 0 HP, and once his BT aura expires, he will be revived with 1 HP remaining. One of his signature trademarks is also having a Brave Barrier, and this is tied to his EX ability and his BT ability as well. While it's up, any Brave damage that he takes will be reduced by the amount of his iBrave stat as well. And for the most part, because he can also boost his initial Brave by his additional ability, he would usually take very close to 0 Brave damage. Not to mention, his BT aura also provides Brave Barrier to the rest of the party as well, which means that as long as his BT aura is up, it's extremely difficult to deal any form of Brave or HP damage to the party, and you'll likely, for the most part, be unable to be killed. There are certain attacks that can still get around this, especially orb attacks, but this really places Zack as the premier tank in the current meta in DFFOO Global. Now coming to Ramza, Ramza is currently one of the best supports in the game. He provides a variety of offensive buffs and auras to the rest of the party. But what makes him truly stand out versus other supports is the fact that his PT aura also provides boosts to the Brave and HP damage caps, and it's important not to mistake these as boosts to Brave or HP damage itself. This actually raises the ceiling of damage that you can do on both Brave and HP damage, and the amount of boost he provides while is tied to the number of buffs to the party. As long as you ensure everyone has maximum number of buffs, being in the field he actually provides a whopping 51% boost to the Brave and HP damage caps that you can do. He does also have a little bit of utility mixed into his kit as well, in the sense that his LD first of all can delay all enemies by 2 turns and will also initiate a launch, in addition to being an extremely hard hitting attack itself. He lands a very nice frame debuff from his EX, and with his C90 his EX itself is also a very hard hitting attack, and his shout ability, which is his S1, does have a single target instant break tied into that attack. Now of course online there's quite a few comments saying that if you did pull for Garnet during the Global's 4th anniversary event and you have her as your go-to support unit, then there's not a lot of need to pull for Ramza. And I think that statements are really only half true. Sure, if you have Garnet built up as your premier support unit, maybe there's no need to pull for Ramza and use him, but as with all units, like I said before, there is really no one must-have or a character that you really need to pass content. And even if you skipped Ramza, Zack and Garnet altogether, you can actually still complete content, even endgame content, although these units do make it extremely easy to do so. The thing to consider though is that although both Ramza and Garnet are considered as support units, the two of them have quite a lot of insane synergy when put together in the same party. I think this is also one of the factors that should be considered when you decide whether or not you want to pull for Ramza. I did mention before that Ramza himself brings a 51% boost to Brave and HP damage caps, assuming everyone in your party has 6 buffs. Garnet herself, when fully built, provides another 40% boost to HP damage cap up. So together in the party, they provide a whopping 91% boost to the damage ceiling that you can do. And because both of them provides a considerable boost to attack and Brave damage, and of course Garnet herself provides an elemental enchantment and imperil, it's actually not very difficult to hit the new cap, which actually means that you are essentially almost doubling the damage output that you can do. In addition, Garnet herself actually has quite a bit of utility that complements Ramza's kit very well. So like I said, she does have the Water and Thunder Enchant and Imperil, which complements Ramza because Ramza doesn't have any Elemental Enchant or Imperil. She does have stronger burst heals if the stage requires for it, and very importantly, her BT aura provides a Brave refund after every attack, and this allows you to hit the new HP cap much more easily since you're always starting the attack from max Brave. So while yes, I guess if you already did have Garnet built and you are using her, you can of course complete content without using Ramza, but the other side of the coin, you can just put Ramza and Garnet together and you will still get insane value just due to the amount of synergy that they have together. So coming back to what I was mentioning earlier, if you are still on the fence on whether you should build one or both of Ramza or Zack, there are quite a few factors that you should consider. So in this part of the video, what I'll do is talk a little bit about how some of these may influence your decision. And of course, the whole idea behind this is that I hope to just give, I guess, somewhat simplistic view, and really there's probably many other factors beyond this, but I hope this gives sort of like a simple overview on how I would think about it when I'm sort of deciding whether or not to pull for either Ramza or Zack, or maybe even pull for both. Now the first key factor is roster, And DFFOO as a game really values having variety in your roster, on the virtue that there are content or stages that features lockout, and even for example having a beast that has code requirements. So obviously having a wider variety of units will help you manage content as they appear. So thinking about roster, if you do need somewhat of an updated tank, and one strong factor to consider also is that we haven't had many good tanks lately. I think the last updated one in the current meta was Bash, and the last one before him was Oren. Both tanks are still very usable now, even in the current meta. So if you have them built and you feel that you don't need another tank, then maybe there's less a need of Zack. But those two tanks, they can do their job, but there's nothing really meta breaking about them. So if you feel you want an extremely efficient tank that can also output at least very decent damage, then it's not such a bad idea picking up Zack. On the same token, if you feel that your roster is lacking key supports that really boost the damage that the rest of your party can do, and one strong consideration is if you did miss Garnet when she had her debut during the 4th global anniversary event, then Ramza is actually a fantastic pickup here. When thinking about this, I think you should also consider how often you actually use a tank versus a support. Now of course some people say that supports are maybe a bit more plentiful than tanks, and on the virtue that tanks are harder to come by, maybe you should consider pulling for Zack. On the same token as well, there's not a lot of stages that you do need to use a tank, whereas there's probably more endgame stages that does require the use of a strong support. So I think that also needs to be taken into consideration as well. And I think that also ties into the second factor, which is playstyle. There are many different approaches to endgame stages. On one hand, you could just blitz through the current meta with strong damage dealers and meta breaking units such as Machina and Garnet, and you can complete the fight in a matter of minutes. But Lufenia Plus stages, which is the current endgame as we know it, does usually feature attacks that could likely one-shot either one or all of your characters in your party. So another approach that some people would prefer taking would be sort of like a safe and steady approach, where you feature having a party that can actually withstand the attack and slowly whittle the boss's HP down. It may be longer than a blitz strategy, but it's also probably a bit more consistent because the blitz strategy is sort of like a high risk, high reward strategy. If you make a mistake, you'll likely have a run ender and you have to start again. There's nothing wrong with either strategy, it's just two different approaches to playing the game. And for me, I think if you're someone who really prefers the sort of blitz strategy and trying to end the fight as quickly as possible, then probably Ramza is a go-to person just on the virtue of his increased damage caps. If you prefer a more consistent approach and you want someone that can protect the rest of your party in a majority of Lufenia Plus stages, then probably Zack is your go-to person. Next up is resources in terms of tickets, gems and BT ingots. These two characters are not really cheap characters. They do require quite a lot of investment, especially on the front of BT ingots, where it's especially scarce at the current meta. Ramza does have one advantage in that his LD and BT is sort of like a rerun, so some players may already have Ramza LD and BT, which means that if you decide to green him, you just really only need to spend the BT ingots and you can save on your tickets and gems. Or if you have lots of spare tickets and gems lying around and you want to spend, then then maybe you can consider pulling for Zack. On the other hand, of course, if you're low on tickets and gems and you want to save for upcoming units, another unit that's coming up that's really hype is Laguna, and I know a number of people, including myself, is aiming to pull for him. Then you may want to consider maybe even skipping Zack altogether. And of course, being a Final Fantasy game, one important factor is always whether any of this character is your favorite. End of the game, we are playing this game to have fun, and fun really means different things to different people. So if you feel you probably enjoy using one of the character more than the other, or if you have the resources to spare and you think it will be really fun to pull and use both characters, then really there's nothing wrong doing that as well. End of the day, whichever decision that you make, you can't really go wrong, because both Zack and Ramza are extremely useful units regardless of who else you have in your roster, and I'm fairly sure that once you build them up, they will be able to provide you a good return on your investment. And in case all of that was extremely confusing, I guess I can always use how I came to my decision as sort of like a case example. So in terms of myself, what I did is actually to green Ramza, and to cover a bit on why. First of all, in terms of playstyle, I really like the bleed strategy, and if you watch any of my runs, you see that I always like to try to find no boss turn runs, and I really love going to one huge BT mode with Machina, and someone that really fits into this strategy more would be Ramza over than Zack. I also like that Ramza has very strong synergy with Garnet herself. Like I mentioned, having the 91% boost to HP damage cap favors sort of like the Blitz playstyle, and with that you can get into a much bigger BT mode outcome than what we could do before. Something that really helped my decision is that I already did have Ramza, LD and BT, so I didn't even need to pull on the banner, and that made the decision extremely easy as well. I was still considering even greening Zack, and I may still green Zack if I can snag his BT, but I'm holding back because I didn't actually manage to get Zack on his banner with Rydia. I did manage to get Rydia's LD, and I really don't want to spend resources to chase a BT on the virtue of how rare it is. If I manage to luckily snag Zack in the upcoming Anna Cross banner, then I may still green him, but having a tank doesn't really suit my playstyle a lot. Again, tanks don't really tend to fit into blitz strategies, but having a tank, especially one as good as Zack, may come in handy in some stages as well, so we'll see. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope it's been at least somewhat helpful if you're still on the fence on whether or not to green Ramza or Zack or both. As always, I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you did, please leave a like, comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!